The Solstice Warden, a magnificent flagship of the Ziliari Dominion, orbited above Earth like a cathedral carved from obsidian and starlight. Its towers rose with alien grace, antennae spinning slowly, glowing with runes that pulsed in rhythm with the ship's solar-fed engines. Inside its audience chamber, Jason Everhart, Earth's chosen envoy, was sweating through his collar. Jason was no stranger to diplomacy. He'd once negotiated with Martian terraformers who threatened to release engineered moss across 3 colonies and convinced Saturn's icy miners not to arm penguins for security purposes. But this meeting was different. Across the vast crystalline chamber sat Queen Thalos herself, the ruler of the Ziliari. Her throne shimmered like it was carved from frozen light, while the floor beneath her reflected a field of stars. The queen's presence was overwhelming. Her long, pointed ears shimmered faintly, shifting colors like moods painted across the spectrum. Cobalt one moment, rose gold the next. Her hair, dark as midnight, flowed against the polished plates of living armor she wore, each piece whispering as though alive. Jason, fumbling with his notepad, felt as though he'd been tossed into a black hole with the same chance of survival. He began with the usual pleasantries. Esteemed Queen Thalos, on behalf of the United Earth Alliance, I extend greetings and our sincerest intentions for peaceful collaboration and, mutual prosperity. His voice cracked. The notepad slipped, clattered onto the glowing table, and when he stooped to retrieve it, he managed to bang his head hard enough to make the sound echo through the chamber. The Ziliari dignitaries didn't laugh. Jason straightened and forced a nervous grin. That's how we show respect on Earth. A bow followed by minor concussion. To his surprise, a soft chuckle escaped the Queen's translator droid. Thalos, however, remained inscrutable. She gestured for the lights to dim. "We have studied your offers," she said, her voice carrying the resonance of a song sung across eternity. "Your people wish to trade nanite technology for our crystal reserves and fusion engine blueprints in exchange for access to our stargates." Jason attempted humor. "Think of them as weekend projects." Her gaze sharpened. "You assume we are desperate. We are not." Jason swallowed, fumbling for another line. "Of course, negotiation is like chess. Do you play? On Ziliari, we play Varental. Each piece is a sentient worm that sacrifices part of itself to defend the queen." Jason blinked. "That sounds emotionally taxing." The tension was unbearable. His carefully prepared notes now seemed useless, numbers blurring into nonsense. In desperation, Jason blurted something that would change everything. "Well, unless you'd rather marry me instead." The words tumbled out high-pitched and panicked, meant only as a joke. His brain immediately screamed at him for treason against common sense. Silence descended. Not the awkward kind he was used to, but a silence so profound even the stars seemed to hold their breath. Then Queen Thalos rose. Step by deliberate step, she descended from her throne, crystalline boots chiming softly. She stopped before Jason, her violet eyes searching his face. "Then I accept," she said. Jason froze. "I what?" Her translator announced cheerfully, "By Ziliari law, you are now engaged to the throne." The chamber erupted, not in outrage, but in ceremonial song. Drones filled the air with hymns. A circle of light surrounded Jason and Thalos. The court bowed in reverence. His joke had just triggered the most serious engagement in the galaxy. Jason's jaw fell slack. "Oh no," he whispered. "This can't be real." But it was. The galaxy had just witnessed Earth's envoy accidentally propose to an alien queen, and be accepted. Jason had been through his share of diplomatic gaffes before, mispronouncing alien titles, knocking over sacred goblets, once even sneezing on a Martian ambassador. But waking up the morning after in the royal quarters of the Ziliari Queen, officially titled consort to the throne, was a whole new category of disaster. The chambers were vast, bathed in lavender light filtering through crystal walls that seemed to pulse faintly with life. Jason sat upright on a bed big enough to dock a shuttle on, clutching sheets woven from fibers that glowed like captured starlight. "This isn't happening," he muttered, burying his face in his hands. This is some bureaucratic fever dream. The door chimed, and in stepped a pair of attendants. Tall, ethereal figures draped in flowing garments. They bowed and spoke in perfect unison. "Good morning, royal consort. The queen has ordered your ceremonial attire be fitted. The binding ritual commences at dusk." Jason groaned. "Ceremonial attire? Binding ritual? Look, there's been a mix-up. I made a joke. You know?"
Unforgettable.
The attendants didn't blink. "Your words were heard by the court. Intent is irrelevant. By Ziliari law, vows spoken before the throne cannot be rescinded." Jason slumped back against the bed. "Great. Not only did I embarrass myself, but I accidentally rewrote interstellar marriage law." Later that day, Jason found himself paraded through crystal corridors lined with banners depicting twin suns and silver serpents. Everywhere he turned, Ziliari nobles bowed, murmuring reverently about the human consort. His face burned with humiliation. "Back home," he muttered. "I couldn't even get a second date. Now I'm engaged to an alien queen? My high school guidance counselor would be thrilled." The binding ritual preparations were like nothing he'd seen. Choirs of living crystals sang in harmonics that vibrated his bones. Architects sculpted floating platforms that would orbit the throne. Soldiers in gleaming armor lined the halls, their expressions unreadable. Jason's ceremonial attire turned out to be a shimmering tunic that pulsed faintly with his heartbeat. "This feels like wearing a mood ring that hates me," he grumbled. When Queen Thalis finally approached, Jason's nerves nearly gave out. She stood regal in ceremonial regalia, her armor replaced by flowing robes that shimmered like molten silver. Her violet eyes regarded him with curiosity. "You appear unsettled," she said. Jason blurted the obvious. "I didn't mean it. Back on Earth, we make dumb jokes when we panic. I wasn't seriously proposing." For the first time, Thalis tilted her head, almost amused. "And yet, here you stand, clothed in our vow threads, ready to bind yourself to my crown. If it were merely a jest, why do you not flee?" Jason's mouth opened, then closed again. He had no answer. Maybe because deep down, some part of him didn't want to run. The queen's lips curved faintly. "Do not fear, Jason of Earth. This union does not shackle, it elevates. Together we may unite two peoples. Your blunder has opened a path no envoy dared tread." Jason gulped. Somehow, her calm assurance made the room feel both safer and infinitely more dangerous. He wasn't just trapped in a cosmic misunderstanding. He was being woven into destiny itself. By dusk, the entire ship thrummed with energy. Jason had seen state ceremonies before, but nothing on this scale. The Solstice Warden's central hall had been transformed into a floating cathedral of crystal platforms suspended in midair, rotating around the queen's throne as if planets orbiting a star. Each step Jason took made the woven tunic glow brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his heart. Crowds of nobles, soldiers, and dignitaries filled the balconies, their faces shining with anticipation. Jason swallowed hard. "Back home," he whispered to himself. "The most attention I got was when I tripped over a mop bucket. Now the galaxy's watching me marry a queen. Fantastic." At the center, Queen Thalis waited, radiant in ceremonial robes woven from liquid silver. Her violet eyes locked onto him, calm but intense, as though she could read every nervous thought running through his head. The ritual began with the Song of Threads. Choirs of crystalline beings lifted their voices, creating harmonics that resonated through Jason's bones. Light beams connected him and Thalis, weaving glowing strands between them, wrapping their figures in a cocoon of energy. Jason flinched. "Is this supposed to tingle? Because it really tingles." Thalis raised her hand, and the chamber silenced. "Jason Everhart," she intoned. "You spoke words before the throne. By law, by witness, by fate, those words bind you. Do you accept the weight of this vow?" Jason's throat went dry. 100 possible responses whirled through his mind. Denial, excuses, even fainting. But when he looked into her eyes, something unexpected happened. He saw no mockery, no trap, only certainty. And behind that certainty, a strange trust. His voice cracked. Yes, I accept. The chamber erupted in light. The strands wrapped around them both, sealing with a flash that made Jason stumble. When it cleared, the crowd erupted in song, a deep, resonant chant that shook the very hull of the ship. Jason blinked. So that's it?
I'm officially.
What, royal consort? Galactic husband? Bound to me? Thalos said simply, stepping closer. Her voice was softer now, carrying only to him. You are no longer just an envoy. You are part of the throne. Jason's stomach flipped. Great. No pressure. Outside the ship, news of the Union spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, reactions rippled. On Earth, politicians nearly fainted as broadcasts showed their envoy standing beside an alien queen, glowing with ceremonial threads. Some feared disaster. He's married our planet into a treaty we didn't vote on. Others saw opportunity. Earth now has a queen-in-law. Think of the trade benefits. Among the Ziliari, the announcement was met with awe. For centuries, they had regarded humans as curious but primitive. Now, one human stood at the heart of their monarchy. Jason, meanwhile, was still trying to steady his breathing. He leaned toward Thalos and whispered, "Just for the record, I really was joking." The queen's lips curved into the faintest smile. Sometimes, Jason of Earth, destiny wears the mask of jest. And with that, the ritual was complete. The binding ritual had ended, but Jason's life as he knew it was over. The Solstice Warden no longer felt like a diplomatic posting. It was now his home, and in some surreal sense, his kingdom. The days that followed were a blur of protocol lessons, introductions, and endless ceremonial greetings. Nobles bowed to him with reverence, guards saluted, and advisors addressed him as Consort Everhart. Every time he heard it, Jason flinched. Consort Everhart? He muttered one morning, staring into a mirror. Sounds like the name of a soap opera villain. But beneath the pomp and pageantry, real responsibilities emerged. The Queen's advisors explained that as consort, Jason was expected to act as bridge between Earth and Ziliari, speaking for humanity in councils, influencing policies, and even representing the throne at interstellar gatherings. Jason had once struggled to negotiate late rent with his landlord. Now he was expected to weigh in on Stargate tariffs. Thalos, however, was patient. She guided him through their customs, explaining rituals with calm precision. When Jason fumbled or cracked nervous jokes, she never scolded, only reminded him that in the eyes of her people, his courage to speak openly was a strength. Still, Jason wrestled with doubt. I didn't earn this, he confessed one evening as they stood on a balcony overlooking the endless stars. I made a dumb joke, and now I'm tied to the fate of two civilizations. What happens when I screw this up? Thalos regarded him with that same inscrutable calm. Fate does not always choose the most prepared, she said softly. Sometimes it chooses the most unexpected. That is its way of reminding us that even chaos can shape destiny. Jason gave a weak laugh. So,
I'm chaos.
A rare smile touched her lips. Beautiful chaos. Her words left him speechless, warmth settling where panic usually lived. For the first time, he wondered if maybe this wasn't entirely a mistake. Meanwhile, the galaxy reacted with fascination and unease. Union leaders scrambled to reinterpret treaties in light of Earth's sudden royal connection. Traders speculated on whether humanity's influence would skyrocket. Rival empires whispered that the Ziliari had trapped Earth with cunning strategy, while others feared the Union signaled the birth of a power block unlike any before. Jason ignored most of the politics, focusing instead on surviving his crash course in royalty. He stumbled often, misused ceremonial phrases, and once accidentally insulted an ambassador by comparing his ceremonial headdress to a fruit basket. Yet each misstep was softened by his sincerity, and the Queen's quiet defense of him. In time, Jason began to notice the shift. Nobles no longer looked at him with suspicion, but with curiosity. Guards who once seemed indifferent now nodded respectfully. And Thalos herself, once distant, began to share more, not just about her people but about herself. One night, as they stood beneath the crystalline ceiling, she asked, "Do you still regret your words that day?" Jason hesitated. He thought of the chaos, the fear, the overwhelming weight of expectation. Then he thought of her, the way she had steadied him, the way she believed in him when he barely believed in himself. "No," he said finally. "Not anymore." The queen smiled, her eyes glowing like twin suns. "Then perhaps, Jason of Earth, your jest was the truest vow of all." And as the stars burned bright around them, Jason realized he had stumbled into something far larger than himself. Yet somehow it felt exactly where he was meant to be.